Welcome to Trees Marking Passages in Time with Carol Wright. My name is Paul Wood. I'm one of the organisers of the Urban Tree Festival. Thank you for joining. We'll just wait for a couple more people to log in. Carol's going to be walking around the streets of South London, and we'll be going between some slides as well. There's a short video. Carol would love to take your questions, and what we'll try and do is get you to add those to the chat as we're going along, and there's myself and Rachel will be looking at those, and we'll hopefully go to you to ask the questions, or you guys can ask them directly of Carol, and so I'll hand over to Carol now. Well, I better just say something about the Urban Tree Festival. So hopefully you're aware this is the second to last day. There's a few other events still going on, so do sign up for that. The Urban Tree Festival relies on donations, so if you're able to donate, that would be really appreciated. So that's about it from me. So Carol, over to you.
Hello, thanks for joining the Urban Tree Festival today and joining to my walk. So I'm just going to say I am actually standing on Lambeth Road at the moment. So that means any amount of noise. There's a man carrying a guitar on his back, and he's quite lively, just as I'm about to start. But I would expect nothing less being from Lambeth myself. If there wasn't some local colour, I'd be feeling shortchanged. So here I am on Lambeth Road, and I'm on this road because there are 9 trees planted to the Ecomemoria tree trail. The Ecomemoria tree trail was started in 2002 by Miriam Bell and Carla Diego, who at that time worked for Human Rights International, and they had wanted to plant a virtual forest through as many countries as possible to mark the 4,197 people who disappeared during Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship in Chile, which lasted from 1973 to 1990. So wonderful partnership was arranged with Southwark Council, the local MP then, Simon Hughes, and Human Rights Watch, and a whole host of partners to plant trees in London and in Southwark. So at one stage, Ecomemoria had offices on Borough High Street. So here we are on Lambeth Road, and there are 9 plane trees dedicated to the Ecomemoria project here. And the trees on this road were planted by then MPs Simon Hughes and Jeremy Corbyn in 2004. So here we are, the London Plains. I'm just going to swizz you round because I'm going to walk down to the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is, let's just see if I can do this. There we go. So you can see quite a lovely day out here, and the plane trees are planted either side of Lambeth Road. Here's one here. Sadly, the trees no longer have the names of the disappeared. With this project, there used to be, that's towards St George's Circus, we're looking there. Now we're heading down to Geraldine Mary Harmsworth Park. All of these trees at one stage were labelled, but the labels came off maybe about 10 years ago. So here we go. So I'm going to walk down with you here. So we are at the Southwark end of Lambeth Road. The western end, which also has some more memorial trees, is in Lambeth, which makes me happy because I'm from Lambeth. And it's a bit blustery out here, and there's all sorts of face mask activity going on around me. So we're just passing St George's Cathedral Catholic Primary School. So I've gone past about 5 London plane trees at the moment, and we're going to stop outside St George's Primary School, which is a Catholic primary school next to St George's Cathedral here on Lambeth Road. So here we go. And what I have to say, we're standing on a beautiful London plane tree. So here we are. This is also where buses stop and wait. So you've got the iconic London buses as well. Look at that. Proper tourist behaviour now. Look at that. Beautiful plane tree here. And what I have to say, London plane trees are hybrid of Oriental plane and American sycamore, a fantastic city tree. They are good, good for sucking up air pollution and city dirt, and that's why you see so many of them around London in particular. Didn't originate in London though, and they've been around since the 1780s, but the oldest one is in Ely, which is 300 years old. There's another interesting thing that's going on down this road, which I'm going to show you, and it's another tree trail. And this tree trail, if Paul would like to put up Elephant Park slide for me, please. So now I'm standing underneath. Here we go. This tree, again, another London tree. So there we go. Beautiful bark of the London plane tree there. And that's an indication that it's doing its job. So it's stripping out the air pollution. When you see it's a deciduous tree, when you see it's that colour, that means it's shedding any pollutants it has on itself. And depending on how polluted the air is in the area, the more the bark strips. So if we can have the next couple of pictures, Paul, please. So people can see the palmate leaves, and that's the tree canopy of one of the Ecomemoria trees, and that's the palmate shaped leaves, which is in the shape of your hand, basically. So we're standing now. I just squeeze you round, and if I can ask you, Paul, to put up the Elephant Park disc. I think we have a disc there. So with Elephant Park, so this is an interesting one because this is of the past 5 years. This tree trail has arrived in Southwark, and this is to do with the Haygate estate. So Lend-Lease are the project partners with Southwark Council for the 2.5 billion redevelopment of the Haygate estate, which stood near Elephant and Castle from 1964 to 2011. So this is recent history. So that estate is controversially being redeveloped. And there was what was there was over 1,000 trees. And to mitigate that loss, Lend-Lease agreed to this scheme here that you're looking at. And this is Elephant Park, which is the new name for the Haygate estate. So throughout the borough, they have to plant something like 500 trees. And that's Lend-Lease working with Southwark Council Tree Department, with the greater departments of Southwark Council. Sorry, a bus has just started up right beside me. So Elephant Park trees are all over Southwark, but predominantly they've chosen to put them on social housing estates because that's where they took them from in the first place. That's where they've been taken from. Over the lifetime of the redevelopment of the old Haygate, they will guarantee another 300 trees will be planted, and also 50% of the trees which form part of the Haygate urban forest were saved by campaigners. So there is an awareness of developers, the biodiversity, the human health benefits of trees. So even if the estates go, the fact that the campaigners saved that many trees, and that there is, although it can't ever mitigate for the maturity of a tree, at least they were able to get Lend-Lease to agree that trees have to then be planted elsewhere throughout Southwark. But what pleases me about these new trees popping up is because we have Ecomemoria, then we have Elephant Park, and there's no reason for people not to put the names of people who lived on Haygate on those trees. So you have another form of memorial going on. So not just a nice little disc, but it's up to people to approach their local councillors and then lead to say, I fancy putting some people's names on there, because it's people's stories, it's people's lives we were dealing with Haygate. And as I'm walking this Ecomemoria at the moment, we're dealing with people who disappeared, whose families will never see them again. And that's kind of with Haygate, which is a problem in the UK. And you've got to remember those stories and those lives lived in this borough and further afield. So Paul, could I ask you to show the film now of Ecomemoria of the founders? Lovely. Okay, so I'm now in Geraldine Mary Harmsworth Park, standing next to that sign actually, and this is where the Ecomemoria tree trail comes to, and these are the most significant trees of the UK plantings which have happened so far. So a little bit of history I think is needing to put context of Geraldine Mary Harmsworth Park and what goes on here and what it's about. So this is a Southwark Council park managed by Biodiversity. And this park was set up in 1934 with money and land donated by the first Viscount Rothermere. And it's named after his mother, Geraldine Mary Harmsworth. And when he dedicated this park to the people of Southwark and the municipal authorities then, it was for the struggling mothers of Southwark, because he himself was one of 14 children. And as we're dealing with migration, his mother was from poor family in Dublin. So she came over, met his father, who was a barrister. They had 14 children, 5 of which of the sons made names for themselves in the city of London. So this is the big behest of Harold. He donated this to Southwark, and so this has been here since 1934, and 2 large monkey puzzle trees. So if we could see the monkey puzzle trees slide, Paul. So there are 2 monkey puzzle trees in this park, and they were planted on the 30th of October. And there's some beautiful male and female cones. The one on the right is the female, the one on the left is the male, and this was taken 3 days ago, so they are looking stunning here. But more importantly, with this tree, it is labelled. It does have the names of the disappeared on. So I don't know if we have that slide, Paul, of the names of the disappeared. And these trees were planted by Nicola Drewley, and she was the sister of Jacqueline Drewley Ulrich and her husband Marcello Salinas Atel. They disappeared on the 30th of October 1974. So the date was important and pertinent because she came to this park 30 years after her sister was declared disappeared, never to be seen again, and her brother-in-law. And the local MP, Simon Hughes, was here. And on the inscription you'll see there, disappeared 30th of October, victim of the Chilean military dictatorship and the once project Human Rights International. Now, sadly, that www.ecomemoria no longer exists. That no longer exists. But, you know, there's hope. And regarding the other trees on Lambeth Road, and there were also some on another street in Southwark, there may well be plans for Southwark Council to reinstate those names because they know the significance of the trees and what they mean. And particularly standing here very close to Elephant and Castle, which is the biggest meeting hub for the Latin American communities in Europe, which will be going through some displacement and have been for a few years, as Elephant and Castle is undergoing major redevelopment at the moment. So nothing really stays permanent around these parts, and so they know the significance of putting the names back on the trees. So I'll be keeping my eye on that as well. Okay, so now I'm standing at the Untitled Tree Trail, and this is the 34 trees species which are regarded as the British native trees. And here we go. You can see that now. And if I just flip around, those are the monkey puzzle trees there. So I've come in on the St George's Road entrance to the park, which is, you know, not too busy. Normally it's more bustling, but as we are in COVID and people are doing their best with the social distancing and that. So this is the Ice Age Tree Trail project, which was another partnership project with Trees for London, which is now Trees for Cities, the London Development Agency and Southwark Council. So we are fortunate to have the majority of the trees in this park. Some of the trees are undergoing maintenance, so they're not accessible. But I'm going to take you for a meander to the first of the two trees that I picked out. But I'm going to show you something by the way. These birch trees signify the Tibetan peace garden. So we have a Tibetan peace garden in this park. So I'm going to walk past the silver birch, not walk into them because that'd be embarrassing. There we go. So the Tibetan peace garden are circled by beautiful silver birch trees. And we're going to come up to the first of the trees. And like this. Just do that. There we go. So in there, this is. We're going to come to a white elm, if I'm not mistaken. White beam. So this is how these are labelled. There we go. So Sorbus aria, member of the rose family and relatively new arrival to the UK. Let's flip you round. There we are. Arrived 7,000 years ago, and it's Old English word, and it means beam is white. So the word that means white beam. And the shoes, the use is interesting because the wood, which is a hardwood, was used for cogs in machinery. I'm thinking the Industrial Revolution here. And the berry is called a service berry and it's edible and makes jam or wine. But I understand it's a bit tart. So if you've got a strong constitution, check that out. But as with anything with foraging in parks, be mindful not to take too much because we know there's a trend for this, forage things. But the park people get a bit sad about that when they just see something stripped there. Then other people come and they're like, oh, but look at that, that person's taking liberties. So the next tree here is an alder. Betula family, the same as the birch. And it's a good tree for warmer climates, actually. Good for lakes, waterways and wetlands. Doesn't do well, though, in Scotland or the Shetlands. And I know I had that conversation with Paul when I was looking around here. Also used in gunpowder, which is interesting because we are going towards the Imperial War Museum. You want to see the tree? Somebody, good job, I'm keeping my eye on the chat. Here's a tree. I'm going to switch it. Here's a tree. So that's the bark. Yeah. And I can't really get that close. Do we have an image pool of the alder? Because I can't pull down the branch to take a picture of the leaf. So I believe we do have a close-up of that. I think it was Nick that asked that question. There we go. Yeah. So what we've got there is we have the white beam and we have the alder. Yeah? Okay. I'm just climbing up on a wall. Here we go. So, woo. And this now is the Imperial War Museum. So those are the guns that sit outside of it. Beautiful roses. There we go. Look at that. And so we mentioned gunpowder, and this is the Imperial War Museum. But first, we're going to talk about this here, which is Change Your Life. This is an actual piece of the Berlin Wall. And I'm just going to say I'm going to talk about this one first. So, the Berlin Wall. So 1961, the Berlin Wall was put up by the East Germans. So after the Second World War, here we are in a place that's got a building to war behind us. After that, 61 to 1990, that wall stood. 96 miles of wall stood. So more on the West Berlin side, which was divided into 4 territories. So it was Britain, France, the USA, and the Soviet Union, which managed that side. So you had different quarters, it was quartered up. On the West Berlin side, you had lots of artwork going on. And this one here is by Indiano. And this piece of the wall was taken from Kreisberg, which is a predominantly Turkish part of Berlin. So the artist has been here, been photographed with it. So pieces of the Berlin Wall are all over the world. And in October 1990, both East and West Germany were united. So there's some information there at the bottom of the wall. So I'm going to move swiftly on because I do know time is going. This building here is what remains of the Royal Bethan Hospital. And it was the oldest mental institute in the world. So this is the 3rd place which the Royal Bethlem Hospital existed, and it coined the term Bedlam, a term used for madness. So this is where the 3rd version of Bedlam existed until 1936, when it moved to Beckenham in Kent and is now managed by the National Health Trust Maudsley Hospital. So 2 parts of this building were demolished, and Viscount Rothermere bought the land, 56 acres around Bethlem, to create the park, and the Imperial War Museum moved in here in the 1930s to create this building, this museum for the war, yeah? The nature of that has changed though, because as you see, the Berlin Wall is there. You have a peace garden in here. There are other pieces of art in this park, which talks about the change. So it's more to do with peace than war. And up on this building, and I'm going to switch around very quickly, I'm going to get back onto trees. There is this image here. No other museum tells stories that matter more than these. The person in that image is Lance Corporal Jonathan Bahari, and he is Grenadian, Caribbean heritage, like myself. And he was one of the very few soldiers to hold grand bravery. So he was seriously wounded on the head wound. He was a warrior vehicle driver. He told one and twice he came to live in London. He trained over in the UK. The point I'm going to make about Bahari, who's now 40 years old, is that the role that the Asian, African and Caribbean troops played in the First and Second World War. And there wasn't until 2014 a memorial in Britain to the service that they had given to what they knew as the motherland. So it's important for people like me, who are 2nd generation African Caribbean in London, to see people like Jonathan Bahari. It doesn't matter whether I believe in war or not. It's symbolic that he's on that building, that the Black Cultural Archives in Brixton have a monument to those people who served in those great wars. And hopefully there is now a campaign, because there is actually a national memorial arboretum in Staffordshire, which has 30,000 trees to date, there is no memorial of the 380 dedicated to any of the Black people of colour who served in any wars, whether it was the first, second, Kosovo, anywhere. So that is something which is ongoing. It's kind of a bit like Mary Seacole, where people are just saving up their pennies themselves. So we're going to have a walk around here. And as we are in COVID, as we are talking about memories and migration, this week it is National Mental Health Week, and Bahari Johnson had made mention of the fact of the lack of healthcare provision to ex-servicemen and women, many of who end up homeless and on the street. He was fortunate, he won a Victoria Cross, but he could, as he said, so easily have become homeless. And Bethan, before it was firmly established as a mental institution, hospital, was set up for the homeless. And this part of London, which is South Bank, is synonymous with homelessness, oftentimes with military ex-personnel living around here and living in this park. What you haven't seen me show are the tents very close to these trees. And having managed a park myself, I know what that is like to have those conversations. And people who have far greater knowledge than myself and others who I know are horticulturalists about those trees. So Paul, I'm very wary of time on this, so let's have a look. Let's have a look. I think it's time for, there's a few people over there. Now I'm gonna have to walk through people. Let's see. I think we'll go to the image of myself and Kyra hugging a tree. Can we have that? Balboa Plain, because this is a significant tree here. So I'm doing speed walking. Okay, so this tree here is another plane tree. So we started off with a plane tree and we're back at a plane tree. That was taken, that image there is taken in February of this year. But this is a magnificent tree. And I think Paul might be better versed on this. I think this was caused by pruning, this bulging out. There's two trees in this park like this. And these are in fact the oldest trees in this park. And these trees have been here when the park had when the land had a kitchen garden. So there was a garden for the physicians. So the physicians used to set up an apothecary here. So there was a herb garden and a kitchen garden on this site. And that was specifically to feed and administer herbal medicines to the patients. Because healthcare then was not like it is now. People used to pay pennies, a shilling or so, to come and look at the mad people. And where that's depicted in popular culture is if you look at The Rake's Progress by Hogarth, you'll see people paying to go and see the rake and other inpatients. And it was during the development of the second version of Bedlam here that they said, no, can't be doing that. This is not the way to treat people with mental health support needs. And that carries on till today, as you know, greatest priority. So it's believed that the gardeners that used to look after these grounds for the physicians who would then minister to the patients, and the kitchens would cook food from the kitchen gardens, their pruning caused this bulbous base to these plane trees. These are the oldest ones. So these go back to the 1830s, because it was the 1830 that Bethan moved from Lincoln's Inn Field to here. So we are going, I'm very conscious of time. I think we'll go to the oak tree, Paul. I think we'll have the oak tree. That's what I think we'll have. And then I'll give some time for chat. Yeah, you look at that. palmate leaves, so those are lobed leaves. So the oak, a significant tree. I'm trying to get away from the football playing. Significant tree in history, got grand status, lobe leaves, and it's alleged, and I don't know, this is something you'll need to check out with the London Wildlife Trust. Apparently, it's the best tree for biodiversity. The greatest range of wildlife uses the canopy, bark, soil, every part of the English oak. So it's very much a revered tree. But many uses of the oak as well. Can live up to 1,000 years. Good for ancient tree status. And the products from oaks: chips, fuel, charcoal, acorns for pigs, and tanning. Tanning is a process. Sorry, vegans, I'm gonna have to say this. Tanning is a process where you strip the tree of the bark in spring and summer, grind it down, leave it in water, cold water, to get all the tan out of it, get the colour out of the oak, get that rich colour out, and then you put the animal hides in there. So that's tanning. And there'd be tanneries typically around these areas here. So this bit of South London, between here, Kennington, up to London Bridge, Bermondsey, had quite the smelly industry. So what you see now is not comparable to what this area used to be. There would be tanneries, there would be metal box factories, matchbox making factories. So you had sulfur, you had cholera, all sorts of epidemics because people were living cheap by jowl in this area. Very poor area. And in fact, the land that I'm walking on used to have a notorious pub called the Dog and Duck, you know, where people would end up in court if they got that far. And so, yeah, it was a place of prostitution, alcoholism, abandoned children. It's just a far cry from what has become of Southwark and parts of Lambeth. So there you get the rich history. And now I'm going to the final tree, which is a beauty, which is synonymous with the month in which I'm doing this walk, and it is the Midland Hawthorn. So Paul, if I can have the Midland Hawthorn. Beautiful, look at that. Another member of the rose family, I think that's the third one. And it gets its name from the part of the UK where it's prevalent, Midlands. But hawthorns this time of year have their best show of flowers and many uses. So here we go. So it's from central England. Normally it would be in its natural habitat in woods. It would be an indicator plant of the woodland being old because they survive for 200 years. But this trail is to show you the 34 trees which came after the Ice Age. So here it is in a South London park next to a wall. So definitely not in a woodland. And all parts, including the foliage, are used medicinally. And the foliage is used to decorate maypoles. I don't know how many of you have danced around a maypole in your time. The flowers are not as vibrant as that picture because they've been out for, you know, about nearly 3 weeks. So they're beginning to fade. So I'm very glad that that's the image that you've got on your screen. And folklore attached to this. Apparently hawthorn to ward off evil spirits, and in Ireland, the fawns are said to be the meeting place for fairy folk, and the hawthorn symbolises hope. And I think that's a fantastic place to end this part of the walk. And I will ask Paul to put the last image while I take Q&A. And that's the orchard. So I'm walking over to the orchard now. And I'll have a little chat about the orchard. So this orchard has been here for about 20 years. It was set up by the Friends of the Park group, a very strong group, because you need strong local voices in these parks management, and Southwark Council do well with the people who live close to here, and the parks management community. Very important. The use of the park, as we're seeing with COVID, is a lifesaver, literally a lifesaver for some people. So London Development Agency, Southwark Council, Trees for City were involved in planting these trees. The people who now give training, and they were just doing a talk, is Joe Homan, the training manager for the Orchard Project. And I've been fortunate to have received training when I was doing my community orchard course here. Now, where I'm sitting and looking at this orchard, this is where I used to swim, because I grew up in Kennington and Brixton. So this was a Lido. This was a Lido up until the 80s. So it's a strange feeling to be sitting where I used to swim and to be surrounded by these beautiful trees, a course of which we can't access because they're building new buildings, but they assure the locals like myself and the Friends of Group, once the building work's finished, they can put more orchard trees back, and the parts of the tree trail which are missing. So if you were to visit this park, you wouldn't see the 34 trees, because about 12 of them are hidden behind some hoardings and new developments. Okay, Paul, I'm ready for any questions people may have.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Carol. That was fascinating, and extremely well done on actually doing it live, walking round as well. That's the first person that's done anything like that, so it was very impressive. There's Nick, Daisy and Nick and Grace have a question, which is whereabouts in the park is the Midland Hawthorn?
Oh, the Hawthorn is, let me see, where am I? I'm at the western end, so I'm at the Kennington Road part of the park. That's where I am. So it's near the tennis courts. That's where the Hawthorn is. I've literally come in the St George's Gate and walked in a circle. So I've walked in a circle around. So I'm at the Kennington Road end of the park. That's where the Hawthorn is. Yeah. And that is tree number 24. Unfortunately, the map that they've got has no numbers. And I didn't realise this. And I actually have a copy of the printed map I managed to find, and it hasn't got the numbers and it hasn't got the Latin name. So it's been a bit, oh, that's a shocker. And that's why they stopped giving the maps out, because they weren't numbered and there's no Latin naming convention. Yeah, and I didn't bother with a Latin naming convention, because you don't need me to mispronounce things, people. It's not that interesting. But yeah, so that's where the Hawthorn is. And there are about another 2 Hawthorns in here. So I've not gone through all of the trees that they have here, because not all of them are on display. What I've missed out is probably Salix willow, crack willow. Yeah. So there were, what else is there? Black poplar is here. Then you've got maybe 25 more trees with the orchard. So this is abundant with trees here. It's staggering. They have a truly amazing wildflower meadow on the Lambeth Road side of this park. It's not, and it's best this year, but it's worth coming and checking it out. That wildflower meadow and the trail and the 2 monkey puzzle trees as well. But sadly, you'd be hard pushed to know which of the trees on Lambeth Road were actually the Ecomemoria trees. And I remember when they were labelled, that it was through saying I wanted to do this walk that I worked it out by looking at what had tarmac at the bottom, because the planting of the London Plains that Ecomemoria had compared to Elephant Park, there is just a quality of cobbles around Elephant Park. Quite right. So I hope if Southwark Council who has heard this said, do reinstate the name, that they could just shushy up around the roots of the tree. give it some mycorrhizal fungi and some TLC. Maybe get people like myself and some of the Latin American community in Elephant and my local councillor who's Colombian involved, because I think that's the way that these tree projects go these days. You know, when people plant them, think of the community who lives around, and if they're not involved, they certainly will need to get involved, because your budgets aren't fantastic, and that's the truth. You know, the tree maintenance budgets, the tree officers get cut as well, you know, their positions. So those who are here, we have to do our bit to water them, particularly the young trees, you know. Are there any more questions there?
Yeah, there's another one, which is, what have all the trees got to do with the Ice Age on the Ice Age tree trail?
Because they were the first ones to colonise Britain. When the ice caps melted, these were the coloniser trees. These were the first trees which came throughout the land for people to eat, to make their homes, to build shelter, to get their animals. So these are the 34 trees which came after the Ice Age. And when they came, when we broke away from Europe, I can say nothing about recent elections. It's charged with politics, this. I've reined it in. I told Paul before. So that's what it's got to do. These are the colonising trees. So these are the pioneering species. So the belief is that they may have existed before the 52,000 year Ice Age, which ended 12,000 years ago, something like that. So these are the pioneering species, yeah? So if you've got these in woodlands, then you have a good idea that they were the ones that existed once the polar ice caps melted and we broke away from Europe. So like the Great North Wood, you can see, but it's not, you can't see that in Epping Forest because it's been so well pollarded and things have taken over in there. But so the Great North Wood will have some of these species, not all. You know, because we've just got them here as an example. Whoever, you know, Trees for Cities, when they had some budget for, wouldn't it be great to have the trees so people can have an understanding? It's an education, isn't it? It's and that's great. You know, that fortunately for me, it's on my doorstep, and the local schools come and make use of it, and the orchard, because where else are you going to see the 34 pioneering species that were here in the UK? Because not everybody's got budget to go up and down and go, oh look, there's that tree. No, you know. So yeah, fortunate. You know. All right.
Great, thank you. So I don't know, is anybody else got a question? You can use the virtual hand raising, and we can go directly to you, and you can ask your question of Carol directly. So don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy.
So any questions?
Who's on there?
Oh, they're being very shy, Carol.
They're being shy. So what's people's relationships to, oh, where are people from? Where are people watching this from? I always know, yeah, where are they from? Who's watching me sitting on a park bench?
Yeah, let us know. If you can type in where you're from into the chat. It's always fascinating to see where people are coming from. So someone from Clapham, not that far.
Well, good place to live, south of the Thames, quite right. About to upset people now. More, is anyone else in South London?
Shout out for South London.
Oh, Surbiton, good quality, good round there. Like Epsom, really nice, really nice. You've got some good woodlands around there. Definitely, nice round Epsom.
Everybody else is, well, you know, I'm in North London, Carol, but I
thought, oh no, he's going to mention North London. Oh dear. Oh dear. But in preparing for this walk, Paul's book was one of the books that I had to hand. You know, so I had Paul's book to hand. Also, the Woodland Trust website was fantastic, because if you want to read further about the Ice Age tree trail, though, that has the information. So that was one of my first ports of call. And also I've got little pocket tree books which I carry around. So the way that I've learned to identify trees is to come into parks or on the street. I want to know what street trees there are, and a tree should get knocked over or some random accident nonsense knocks over a tree, I will either on social media or an email to the tree officers and saying, this tree is no more. This tree has been run over by a car, or somebody's nicked this monkey puzzle tree. Those are the types of things that my friends and I raise with the tree officers, who are fantastic in Southwark, and they're really being pared back, which is not good. So we've had the monkey puzzle tree replaced, which cost £400. So I haven't looked at the cost of, but for another day. I do have the costings somewhere of all the trees on this native tree trail, so you can understand the worth of these trees. To people who pay to put them in parks, people who fundraise for trees, you know, because this space is very valuable. This land, the fact that we have an orchard, we have an Ice Age tree trail, we have a part of the Berlin Wall, you know, and we have a now free of charge museum apart from the special exhibitions. So I always say to people who don't, please don't, you know, make use of these spaces, because when local authority thinks you're not, they'll make changes that you might not agree with. So that's a campaigning activist side of me. Don't let it get taken away, and get out and do as much as you can to help your local spaces, your local green spaces. Yeah. All right. Are they being quiet, Paul?
They
Hello.
are, yeah.
Oh, who's that?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Pat.
Hello there.
Hello. This is the first time I've come onto your website or whatever it is. I was surprised to hear you say that oak bark was used for tanning.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was only pine trees that were used for tanning.
No, definitely oak. It's oak, yeah.
And can they strip the bark without damaging the tree to use the bark?
I'm not 100% certain of that, because I've read that it's in spring and summer. And what I'd like to know, because there are tanneries up in Bermondsey, is if you leave your name or something with our volunteers at the tree festival, I will find that out and give you that information. Because we used to have tanneries in Bermondsey way before my time. So I can imagine, I wonder where they were getting oak trees, bark in Bermondsey, because Bermondsey isn't blessed with woodland, you know? And I'm just wondering what is that detrimental to the tree, because that's their skin.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. So that is something I will happy to check out.
And then I'll come on to your talks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I like that. See, I like that. That's making my brain whir now. I like those types of questions, because that'll be answered in less than an hour. By the time I go back indoors, I'll already have Googled it, you know, and looked at the history of tannery, because I'm fortunate that I can go to Bermondsey and they've got Tanner Street, and they've got all the older tanning factories, which are now internet hubs and all of this, and nice restaurants. So yeah, Bermondsey's got a lot of tanneries up there, and they've got the history on the walls there as well, which is great. And Tanner Street, so we have a Tanner Street in Bermondsey in honour of the tanning industry. And there is only one tanning industry left in the UK that uses tree bark. You know, because I saw their registration details, and they said we are the last surviving tannery, and it was that site, which I can't remember the name of, that said that they used oak bark to tan the animal hides. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Carol. And I think we've got time for one more question, which is, and it's a really good one, this is, how do we show our support for the gardeners and the people who protect and support the park, and the people that you described, the volunteers, I suppose?
I think what you do is you get in touch with the friends, because I can see it says specifically GMH. I would get in touch with the Friends of group, because they will let you know when their meetings are taking place or if they're having any activities in the park. So that would be the way to do it, because the parks manager is mobile, so that person who's called Nicola Cheetham isn't always here. So I think that's your best approach, is to contact the Friends of Geraldine Mary Harmsworth Park, because they do a lot of tremendous work here. There's a dog like fitness trail in here even. They've even thought of what the dogs do with themselves when they come into that park. So if you go online and Google Friends of Geraldine Mary Harmsworth, up will pop their email address and you can drop them a line and say, Carol says they're fantastic. Yeah, because they are, because they're the ones that made sure that there was an orchard, the tree trail was here, and anything they see untoward, they come round on a regular basis and see what's happening, and they also make sure that not too many events are here and churn up the grass. So they're very conscious of the biodiversity that lives within this park. So yeah, brilliant.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I think unless there's any more questions, I think that's about it. We've done an hour, and I'm sure you're exhausted, Carol, after that. But thank you very much. And what I might do is unmute everybody so we can give Carol a round of applause for that tremendous walk. So thank you, Carol. And I'm just unmuting everybody so we can give you a clap.
Thank you.
And you can hear
Carol.
everybody.
Tthank you. Thank you all.
Carol.
I appreciate
Great.
it.
And thank you, everybody, for joining. And we'll leave it there. And hopefully we'll see some of you at some more of the events. So thank you very much.